Welcome to Raheel Stories Hub, where every truth hides a shadow and every shadow tells a story. Tonight's story is about a man who screamed the truth, but no one listened. A man destroyed by the system, framed by the powerful, and silenced by the verdict. The Last Breath, a true horror courtroom story. David Cole was a 35-year-old architect from Los Angeles. Calm, disciplined, respected, he lived a life many would envy. He had a wife, Emma, and a 7-year-old son, Noah. Their house stood quietly at the edge of the city. White fences, a green lawn, and laughter echoing on Sunday mornings. David was a man of precision. Every morning he brewed his coffee, ironed his shirt, and looked at the skyline from his office window. That view meant success, a reminder of how far he'd come from nothing. But one rainy night in November 2023 changed everything. A night that began with a phone call and ended with a scream. 11:48 p.m. David was still in his office finishing blueprints for a new government complex when his phone rang. It was Emma. Her voice trembled. "David, someone's outside the house." Then silence. David froze. The line went dead. Without a second thought, he grabbed his keys and drove home through the rain. His heart pounded as lightning flashed across the empty streets. When he reached the house, the front door was half open. He stepped inside. The living room was dark. The floor wet with rainwater meant and something else. Blood. He whispered her name. "Emma?" No answer. Just the creak of a floorboard. And then he heard it, a faint voice from the hallway. "David, run!" A gunshot thundered. David ran toward the sound. His wife lay on the floor, motionless, her hand clutching a piece of paper. He grabbed it. On it were written 3 words. "He knows everything." Before he could process what it meant, red and blue lights flashed through the window. Police stormed in. "Drop the weapon!" David looked down. His hand was holding a gun. He didn't even remember picking it up. The rain poured harder as David was pushed into the back of the police car. Neighbors stood outside whispering. Cameras clicked. The next morning, headlines exploded. Architect turns killer. Wife shot dead. In the interrogation room, David sat in silence. A single bulb swung above his head. Detective Harris entered, confident, smug, and sure. "David, save yourself the trouble. Just confess. You killed her." David looked up, eyes red. "I didn't kill my wife." The detective slid a photo across the table. "Then explain this." It was a picture of Emma's body, the gun beside her hand. Fingerprints on the trigger. "David's fingerprints!" David's voice broke. "Someone set me up." The detective smirked. "You architects always build good stories." The courtroom. Weeks later, the trial began. David stood in front of the judge, wearing a bright orange prison uniform, wrists bound in chains. The courtroom was silent except for the clicking of cameras. "David Cole," the judge said, "you are charged with first-degree murder. How do you plead?" "Not guilty, Your Honor." Laughter echoed through the room. The prosecutor, a young, ambitious woman named Reed, stepped forward with confidence. "We have clear evidence. Fingerprints on the gun. Motive, financial stress. The victim discovered hidden debts." David shook his head. "That's not true." Prosecutor Reed smiled. "Then what's this?" She displayed documents, credit reports showing massive loans under David's name. He had never seen them before. They were fake, but no one believed him. The only friend. During the trial, David's best friend, Mark Turner, came to testify. But his words made everything worse. "David was distant lately," Mark said. "He and Emma fought often. He told me he felt trapped." David's heart sank. "That's a lie!" But Mark didn't look at him. He couldn't. Because he was part of it. Days later, in his cell, David received a small folded paper under his meal tray. No sender, just words written in black ink. She was never supposed to die. "Stay quiet or your son is next." He read it over and over until his hands shook. He realized this wasn't about Emma. It was about his project, the one exposing illegal land deals linked to politicians. She must have found something. Now she was dead, and he was the scapegoat. When the appeal came, David stood once more in court. His lawyer whispered, "Stay calm." But David couldn't. He looked straight at the judge. "They're lying." My wife was murdered because of what she discovered in my office. Someone wanted her silenced. The judge leaned forward. Then where is your proof, Mr. Cole? David's silence filled the room. The answer was simple. There was no proof. The gavel struck. David Cole, the court finds you guilty, sentenced to death by hanging. A murmur spread across the room. Journalists scribbled. Someone whispered, "Justice served." But no one saw the truth. An innocent man condemned for a crime he didn't commit. The prison nights. In his final days, David kept writing letters to his son. To his wife, to the truth. He wrote on scraps of paper and hid them inside his mattress. Emma, I swear I didn't do it. They made me hold the gun. They made me the story. Sometimes he dreamt she came to him, standing at the cell door, smiling softly. But when he woke up, only silence remained. The final morning. The day came. The guards opened his cell. He dressed in clean prison clothes, combed his hair, and stood quietly in front of the mirror. His eyes were hollow and but calm. One guard asked, "Any last words?" David smiled faintly. "Tell my son, I was innocent." They walked him down the corridor. Every step echoed like thunder. In the execution chamber, the judge, the press, and the witnesses waited. The rope hung still. David looked up once, whispered a prayer, and covered his face with his hands as tears rolled down. And then, silence. The gavel fell in another courtroom, somewhere else. The same day, another verdict. Another man judged. The system moved on. But for Emma, for Noah, for the truth, the world had lost one more innocent soul. And that was the story of David Cole, a man who spoke the truth and paid for it with his life. Sometimes justice isn't blind. It's deaf. You've been watching Raheel Stories Hub, where truth and horror walk hand in hand. Subscribe for more dark, emotional